So, for what feels like forever, ChatGPT has been the undisputed king of AI, right? But what if I told you a new challenger just kind of quietly took the crown?
I mean, just this year, a new model called DeepSeek basically appeared out of thin air and just exploded onto the scene, immediately topping the AI app download charts. So you gotta ask, what is this thing? And could it really be the new king? So, a new challenger has definitely entered the ring. And from what we're seeing, it's not just another competitor, it's a potential game changer. So, why is everyone freaking out about DeepSeek? Well, first off, it's open source. And that is a huge deal. It means its code is public, so developers can see it, use it, build on it, a total game changer. It's also way cheaper to run. But the real headline here, it's reasoning ability. We're talking about a model that in some key tests is actually outperforming the mighty GPT-4o. This could be the start of a massive shift, where the open source community starts to pull ahead of the big tech giants.
Okay, so it's not just about getting the right answer, it's about how it gets there. See, DeepSeek has this really unique way of explaining its own reasoning, almost like it's thinking out loud. And this is where things get super fascinating.
So, to put this to the test, researchers decided to pit them against each other. They gave both AIs the exact same tricky medical question, and the results? Well, they were pretty revealing.
Okay, so check this out. GPT-4o. It gives the correct answer, boom, straight up. But watch what DeepSeek does. It pauses. And instead of just blurting out the answer, it first points out a flaw in the question itself, saying, hey, breast cancer isn't technically a gynecological cancer. Then it gives the correct answer. See the difference? It's not just spitting out facts, it's literally showing you its thought process.
This whole thinking out loud thing actually has a name. It's called chain of thought reasoning. Basically, by breaking down a complicated problem into smaller, logical steps, the AI makes its reasoning totally transparent. And that is a massive step forward for building trust, especially in high-stakes fields like, say, medicine.
But, this thinking aloud approach, it isn't a silver bullet. On one hand, in a hospital, that transparency is a huge plus, right? It builds trust, it can help doctors with complex diagnoses. But the downside, all that extra text could totally overwhelm a busy doctor. And then there's the very real risk of what's called automation bias, where people start trusting the AI's detailed reasoning maybe a little too much without double-checking its work. All right, next up, smarter, cheaper, faster. Let's look at the secret sauce behind DeepSeek's efficiency. So how did they do it? It really comes down to a few super clever strategies. First, something called mixture of experts. Just think of it like a team of specialists, where each one tackles the part of the problem it's best at. It also uses smarter, more efficient ways to do all its calculations. Then it's trained in multiple stages to get really good at a whole range of tasks. And finally, it uses a technique called reinforcement learning, which helps it learn and improve even when there isn't a ton of perfect data to learn from. So what's the bottom line here? All this technical wizardry leads to some very real-world benefits. We're talking lower operational costs, needing less powerful hardware to run it, and even a smaller carbon footprint. It just makes powerful AI way more accessible to everyone. But of course, having a powerful tool is one thing. Using it safely is a whole other ballgame. And this creates a huge dilemma for places like hospitals, especially when it comes to super sensitive patient data. So hospitals essentially have two choices. Option one, use a cloud-based API. It's easy, you don't need a huge hardware investment, but the massive problem there is patient data privacy. It's a huge red flag. Option two, run the model locally, right there on-premise. That's secure, it's compliant, but it requires incredibly powerful and expensive hardware, putting it out of reach for a lot of institutions. It's that classic trade-off, convenience versus security. And believe me, that's not the only challenge, because for all its power, DeepSeek comes with some pretty big problems and some major hurdles that still need to be sorted out. Okay, this is where we really need to pump the brakes a little. OpenAI has flat out accused DeepSeek of using its data improperly to train their model. On top of that, several governments, we're talking Australia, even the US Navy, have banned its use over security risks. And maybe the biggest red flag of all, especially for medical use, DeepSeek hasn't published its own evaluations for safety, fairness, or bias. And that lack of transparency, that is a serious problem. So where do we go from here? The researchers who analyzed all this really hit the nail on the head. They basically said that putting AI into a field as critical as healthcare demands not just constant innovation, but also constant, careful watchfulness.
So here's the bottom line. DeepSeek is a massive leap forward, no doubt. It shows us a future where AI doesn't just give us answers, but actually explains its reasoning. But the road to using this safely and effectively, especially in medicine, is still a really long one. It's going to require a huge collaborative effort from developers, doctors, and regulators all working together. Which leaves us with a final, really important question to think about. When you weigh all of this, the incredible power versus the privacy risks, the transparency versus the potential for hidden bias, what do you think is the single biggest ethical challenge for AI in medicine? Let me know what you think.